Hi, everybody. Hope it's reasonable where you are. Looks like summertime is coming. And we have a couple of questions that are really what I would call pretty important overall in relationship to how we see the world and how we function. This one is from Sonia Nigan. And she says, how can I know that I am spiritually growing? Are there any signposts, like changes in emotions or perception? Is looking for signposts helpful? How can I know that energy is on my side and that my efforts to grow will reap fruit? Pretty interesting question, and kind of a difficult one to deal with if you're dealing with being vulnerable as a personality. At least that's what I've seen over the years. And some of you are experiencing some of this as well. Let's try and how can I know, look at the first part, that I am spiritually growing. In our personality styles, we seldom look at them as if we are engaging every day with various ways, various things that are occurring in our life, and the fact that we have many kinds of defenses which help us to attempt to find some inner balance. And it's an important thing to pay attention to, because we're not always aware of them. And the very first emphasis of getting to understand ourselves as a person, as a being of consciousness, is an attempt to understand little bits and pieces about ourselves, which is not so simple. Often people just say, well, I understand everything about myself now, and blah, 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 blah. Not realistic and not really true. But the assertions enable us to feel comforted when we come up with them. And this is a nature of a kind of semi-recognition of one very basic signpost that is really important for us. We look at spiritual growth based on definitions that we, unknown to ourselves, or pretty known to ourselves, depending on the person. And we come up with these, and we already have definitions of what that should look like. Unfortunately, they are not always as true as we think they are. This is just common amongst us all. One of the things that are really important to look at, ultimately, I think, is the idea of finding territory within our internal self, our internal personality, and our external personality that relates to being at least reasonably comfortable within ourselves. And so much in life occurs to trigger places within us that need defending, or not only defending, but help in trying to feel more comfortable than how those occurrences make us feel. This is a dilemma for all of us, because we're all human beings. And we often come face to face with very difficult circumstances. And that's part of living, because our focus basically in this life is related to our physical bodies, our emotions, and how we see the world, and our beliefs, of course, and how we make sense of them in our own minds based on our particular training in our past. Yet we don't really visit that too often, or nor do we find a need to do so. So when you're really looking for the idea of what spiritual growth looks like, we don't take into consideration the idea that we are growing every single day of our lives. Whether that be considered spiritual or not, it's certainly considered to be an aspect of daily life. Whereas you engage with life and you learn how to deal with some things better than you could before. This is often done without awareness. One of the difficulties with inner growth, spiritual growth, is the key element is you become more aware. Along with that is an aspect that goes along with it, that is part of it, and that is a recognition that these things happen to other people as well as ourselves. These impacts on our lives. But awareness, if you become more aware of it, then you tend to have more reflexes or reactions in relationship to what you feel comfortable with. This is hard to allow ourselves to recognize some of this stuff. For example, if you have increased awareness, you will see little things that other people do that are more wonderful, just truly, really interesting, that you never saw before. Unfortunately, on the other side of things, you'll see things that are not that wonderful. And then you have to deal with you. That is a big part of growing. In the old traditions, the first thing that you would have to do is take a look at you. And that has not changed. Not in a judgmental way, just in a recognition manner, where you recognize what is inside. And because your focus becomes on recognition, you begin to realize that you're seeing more than you could before. That is an aspect of inner growth. The next step is really important. Understanding yourself as a human being, affected by human beings, and engaging with a collective human engagement. Wow, that one is uncomfortable, because the implication is that you will notice more as you grow than you could before. But the problem is, if you have been in a situation where your life has been involved with self-protection, then your judgment will be stronger. And all of our lives have been involved with self-protection. Whether you believe it or not doesn't really matter too much. What does matter is there's an increase in awareness in everything. If you're not used to seeing positive things, then learning how to see things from a positive perspective becomes difficult. But even that difficulty is increased because that's the nature of how we do things from time to time. So whatever you do is increased. Cultivating a willingness to allow yourself to be okay with what you're doing and attempting to say, maybe I can attempt to soften it or see it from a different perspective. See, the it is the awareness. When you look at awareness in a positive manner, you realize, I'm noticing more in others, therefore I will respond in a manner that relates to how I would naturally respond. It means if you're strongly emotional, you will become more emotional, because that would be something that was validating for you before. Same is true of thinking in a certain way or engaging in a certain manner. Whatever that manner would be, you'll see that better. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. So therefore, you wouldn't apply that to an idea that implies that you're actually growing spiritually. You would think, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? Or you might increase your version of how you see other people as not being able to function. Basically, they cannot function because it's not within them to function any better than they can. Well, that's a terrible way to think, but remember, they're not aware that they're growing. Therefore, they will protect themselves based on what they need to do to be okay within themselves. That apparently has no boundaries. And it begins to give us pause and an attempt to understand this. This is not the only thing. Sometimes you'll just notice that you're not judging as much as you used to. That's a positive aspect. Not judging yourself as well. And if you've never judged or never noticed anything within your own rubric, your own landscape before, when you do, right away, learning how to soften that down will be not comfortable, because you're used to being validated by your rightness or your wrongness. Depends what it is. Increased perception can allow you to understand that our whole construct in this world has multiplicities of parts. People act in many different ways. Some for very short periods of time, if you're looking for a negative. Some for very long periods of time, if you're looking for a negative. Now change the negative to a positive and the same thing applies. But it also has to stand in relationship to how you've already made up your mind things are or should be or could be or shouldn't be. So trying to figure that little piece out, you could say, well, it's interesting philosophically, but at the same time, when you're actually engaged with it, it's uncomfortable. But that discomfort is relating directly to you becoming more aware, because your awareness level is increasing. That as a signpost of higher state engagement. The difficulty there will be, you will also increase the way you normally do things, so that you can see that maybe that may or may not be helpful under many circumstances. And it's then trying to understand yourself as a young person growing again. Is it okay that you make mistakes? Absolutely. Is it okay if you see them? Absolutely. Then, in your own world, looking at them and say, oh, this is interesting. I'm seeing this from a different perspective, which means you're looking at it from a different angle than your training has allowed you to look at it before. You then can see through some of that previous training as not as helpful as you thought it was. But don't forget, you can recycle back into any training, and that is a mode related to the personality structure. It's a system. It's not an ownership thing. It's a system. It operates, strangely enough, almost on its own. And you can detect that more often than you could before. Your detection process recognizes an activity that occurs in and through you. A reaction is one of those activities that you believe must be true because it has reacted in you for the purpose of protecting you and your idea of what might be valuable or right, or wrong for that matter. So the increase in this awareness is kind of a paradoxical thing. Sometimes it's really helpful, and sometimes it's counter to your relationship with how you have been trained to see what might be as the validating engagement that you have within this system. No negation involved with this at all. Everybody's got the same thing that you're dealing with. If you ask everybody about it, they may just say they don't have it because they have never seen it. Okay, that's an aspect of things. And if you remember, just remember the idea that whatever you focus on gets bigger. Energy follows not only thought, but emotional reflexive stirrings. How you do things even physically. Check out and see it. You can prove it very easily. You'll want to do something, and then your ache to do it will increase as you do it. More will be done in that same region, and you'll miss it when it's not there. You can try that in anything. It's just what occurs in their emotional disposition and the way we follow up that emotional position to protect it, so-called mentally. This is just a way that you can notice an increase in awareness and in our response mechanisms. Shows you that you are growing. There can be a nervousness, for example, around meditation. My gosh, so many people during my engagement with meditation, at least, and so many times there's a reflex reaction to a point where change is getting stronger inside of ourselves, and we are not happy about that. Let me clarify that. It is not that we're not happy about it. It's the personality system that's not happy about it. You will forget that meditation might be there. It might be time to meditate. You will not want to do it. There'll be 1,000 other things that you could do because you're not sure. And you're sensing that change may occur within you for a purpose that relates to a higher state, helping you to be more aware or more engaged with that state. And that's a simple one. That can happen anytime, any place, anywhere. And does. I know many of you have had that experience. I certainly have had it so many times. Because we're nervous about growing. There's an inner pressure. Some have even called it the pressure of the soul. Engaging with the personality construct or system that has developed over time, that nurtures itself within the whole relationship that it has within, so that that nurturing is kind of a maintenance that attempts to maintain a sense of value based on images that you've constructed for yourself. This is not uncommon. It's very common. And when change begins to be on the horizon of the unconscious within that particular personality system, automatically personality system is attempting in some manner to back away from the thing that is helping it to shift, because you don't know what the shift is. And that's an interesting thing, because we don't know where change would occur, and it might affect the images that we already have constructed for ourselves. None of us are immune from this. This is consistent over all forms of spiritual growth. Just an idea. Keep in the back of your mind. And energy is always on, higher state energy is always on our side, because it always moves us towards an engagement with in itself that we have already, and wants us to be like it. The energy that is related to our personality system wants us to be like it. It has been cultivated and developed like a child, another child within you. It acts, reacts, and in all its engagement, it believes the value that it has cultivated within itself. We call it ego or ego drive. Everybody's got one of those things, don't care who you are. And what you do with that, it is self-helping it in the life form that it engages with, because you've cultivated it and you've developed it through the reflexive responses that are necessary in this world to maintain an engagement with a reasonable life circa the images that you already construct. A reasonable life, at least to some degree. And that form is always afraid that it will be, in some way, that a higher state will be. That means more compassion, more understanding across the board, more ability to love and understand reception of love from another, not being physical, not being emotional, or not even being in a state related to the personality system. That's a mouthful. Implication is understanding the level of engagement that an individual has in the world, for the world, and everyone in it, because it happens to be in that world. If it loves itself, which it does, as we all do, whatever that self is made up of, then we maintain that self as if it needs, it's like a garrison. It needs to be supported on all sides against the enemy. And the enemy is a common enemy. Anything that isn't of the garrison. if you ever catch yourself in that, notice it and recognize, and if you can, start laughing. Because not only is it funny, it's what everybody does. Because they're nervous about growing in a way that will not be in accordance with what we understand growth should be like. You get through this to some degree, but there is a vulnerability in that all of us are engaged with. And this is a relationship with getting nervous not only about spiritual growth, but by feeling as if we're losing something out of that personality system that has made us feel good. That's the anticipation. We're really not losing it. We're seeing it, understanding it a slight bit better, and going forward the best we can. I find that really fascinating, uncomfortable from time to time, but nonetheless fascinating, because each of us are engaged with that same kind of thing as we engage with life. I used to ask this silly question, half in jest. What would you be okay with losing out of your constructed system, your personality's purview? What would you be okay with losing that is important to you from your point of view? That's real scary. And usually that's met with, not very much of anything. If it's important to me now, why would I want to lose it? It's not that it happens like that. It's more that our understanding gets deeper. Our sensation of caring changes. Our engagement with loving broadens. And it has not very much to do with that physical orientation. It has more to do with perceiving love in another and where that lies within that other. And beginning to understand within ourselves where that love lies in us. And it's a deep level of loving. And where you end up looking at another and understanding, literally understanding the dilemma of another. Where they can only actually love in a manner that helps them to be okay. And then you find out you have the same thing in you in a different place. And there's a modicum, a little bit of compassion and understanding that begins to occur. And that is a signpost of spiritual growth. That is huge. If you get it for a second or two, a moment, whatever that moment might be, that's big. Huge, as a matter of fact. And the dilemma with our lives is that we are vulnerable. Most often. And reflexively. We defend against being vulnerable. In whatever mode we can come up with attempt not to be resentful of that. Because the system that you're using as a personality is trained to do just that. It's not considered negative by a higher state. It's considered an act of love for the frail engagement of how you believe things have to be. And that love is love, even though it's not engaged as in a higher state. It's still an act of engagement with loving. And that loving begins to shift and change. I've talked many times about one element of this, and I've warned people so often about this. Why? Because I've experienced it myself, to tell you the truth. And that is, as the heart center opens beyond the solar plexus, stimulation of the heart center can occur from the brow, from the throat, or from the heart itself, or the root center going straight up into the crown area, or gonad center. And what begins to happen is this strange turn of events. It's as if you're empty inside. Why you're empty is your personality system is bypassed for moments, for days sometimes, and months sometimes. Bypassed in that it's not protecting itself the way it did. It's opening that upper part of the heart center to a level of function that relates to everybody, but you're not used to it, so you can't see it. And it makes you feel as if you don't care for anybody. If you had a dog, you wouldn't care for it anymore. Husband, wife, don't care. You wouldn't care for them. That's the dilemma of a personality system in trauma. It now fears that no one cares for them. Therefore, they must guard against caring for anybody. Opening of the heart center at a different level. When this occurs, two things have to be there. One, you must protect the personality system. In other words, you don't have to agree with it. That is a protection of it. Sounds strange, but you are protecting against loving from others. You reflex to go back into an old time, usually in the teenage years. Not always, but usually. That will support you. That's if you do not understand this. The support is that, yeah, now you know what real love is like when you were a teenager. Not true. That's very early stuff. But it validates the personality system. It protects it. It protects the system as being right versus wrong, good versus bad. The only one that can be validated. Self-protecting. This is natural and normal. This occurs when that heart center opens, and often it opens because of the throat center and the brow. Moving to the lower system, and the lower system is vulnerable. Now, because it has to change, it's being stretched because it's time to be stretched. So it can broaden out what it sees as viable, as opposed to shrinking down what it sees to validate itself. This is difficult for everyone. Nobody finds this easy. If you were living in a cave and no one around, you would be upset with yourself. You would think life was not worth living because you were opening to a broader life and you were protecting against the opening. There's no way that I can soften this. So, this is how it works. The next level is recognizing that that may be going on or may not be going on. Because you have to have two when you're self-protecting. You can't throw away your own self-validation. And you won't. That's why I'm saying it this way. But you can say simple things. I look at this as an engagement with a higher state that we're not yet ready for. As a deeper level of heart center opening than the engorgement of a personality because the heart center is opening. Yes, you heard right. Or the importance of an individual, because those things are happening, no matter what. Happens all over the world this way. One of the most difficult times was in the 70s, when so many people left many ashrams, because the heart center was opening and they ran, and it was the right thing to do. Back into life, had lives, engaged with lives, did the right thing, because they couldn't handle it. And it wasn't negative, not even the slightest. It was self-sustaining. In that running, they gave a period of time for the opening to continue, unknown to them, because their focus was on life. That was helpful to them. Later on, slowly, many came back into an understanding that was different, where they could allow themselves to recognize that if they did meditate, they had lost nothing. They were right back into a state similar to the one they had before, but not the same, because they had given that period of time to handle slow inner development, so that if they engaged again, they would be okay. They would not be as afraid. They had a sturdy internal background, different. And the inner spiritual development continued, purposefully, helping each and every movement of growth, while they were back in jobs, having kids, sending them to university, surviving. Now they're in their 40s and their 50s. And they are, and have been, developing all along. There are many phases of inner vulnerability that people go through. One of the most in our world is the dilemma of being vulnerable under pressure. And we all are vulnerable under pressure. If you have not seen that, My hope for you is that it's gentle. Be respectful to you the best you can, because it won't feel that way. But there will be inner growth there, and inner development in a manner that will relate to continual growth the best you can handle it. There is a sidebar which I don't like talking about. But nonetheless, as your awareness increases, and this is something that I find very disconcerting, there are levels of the emotional or astral plane that are very judgmental. And what do I mean by that? It means you can leave your body and engage with others, attempting to get them to engage the way you believe they should. This is why I often say, look, try to understand you before you try to do something that you will continue to do in another plane after, or let's say before you've learned how to deal with you. None of us deal with ourselves extremely well. We're still impacted tremendously by this idea of your version or somebody else's version is more right than this other person's version of engagement with anything. Don't care what it is. There are levels, and your awareness will begin to notice those levels from time to time. Or you notice you're saying something and you don't know why you're saying it. It may not be very flattering to another person, or it might not be helpful to that person. There are people who believe, for example, that, and I'm just being honest with this, strangely, that males are the only people that are truly going to be able to grow spiritually. There are others who believe that they're only females are able to grow spiritually, not males. They're too young, or they're not right. Both versions. Verbal manipulation on another plane is not helpful. We have very little control about this, because every one of us engages on other planes in a version of us relative to how we think things should be. Try to give you an example. I'm not sure I can. If you fall asleep at night and you're angry at somebody, yeah, angry, or generally speaking, frustrated, let's say. You engage with that frustration or anger on that plane, this lower astral engagement. And if it's directed at somebody, it moves in that direction. Your idea about your own self-focus impacts the other person. Now, this is fairly low-plane stuff, but it's very, very much at play all the time. trying to understand that that is not helpful, is not easy, because internally you're justified by yourself about how you think you need to be. Do the best you can, because you begin to become aware of this occurring. And if you do, please open the hands and do the life map on it. Meaning something like this. This moves into another question, which I don't think I'm going to have time for. Point your hands in the direction that you believe something just occurred might be. For example, if you think so-and-so did something, because this is how we act here on these planes. Better off not to do it that way. I mean, think of it as someone doing something, but to act in a way that says, that kind of activity, point your hands in that direction and ask for help for it, but don't you, let me just clean that up a little. Ask for that help in that area in a way that relates to a higher perception of it, not your perception of it. This is very difficult because our reactions are so fast, and our beliefs can be quite focused on our personality systems. And we can self-validate very easily. It's just the way we do things. If we do it here, we do it there. I'm talking about people who know they're doing it, and I'm also talking about people who don't know they do it. Either one. Because it's part of the growing process, part about learning, part of an understanding that might be helpful in attempting to be helpful, but not from your state, from a higher state. And how to do that is talk to the higher state. Sounds weird, sounds woo-woo, sounds whatever you want to make it sound. And say, look, don't know if this is really true. Really good thing to say. But I would much rather the help come from a higher state so that that person will be helped in a way that relates to helping them in their particular growing process. Because you really don't know what that particular way of helping them might be. This is a clear thing that, from my perspective, that makes perfect sense. You got to look at it from your own perspective. I know out there that there is a tremendous amount of focus on the individual personality system being validated for what it can do. Often not helpful. Sometimes it could be helpful, but we don't have the ability to know exactly when those times are. I'm just being straight with this. You don't have to agree with me. That's how I think. Do some thinking. Try to understand that. Remember, each of us contributes to the whole, a collective beingness of this planet. And each of us are vulnerable in that contribution. Having heard that, and remember that the collective has an impact on you. So do your neighbors. So do your friends, your loved ones. And their versions of how to function have an impact on you. Trying to understand that to the best of your ability might be helpful as you can see through it, not necessarily aligning with it. But alignment will occur. And that is part of the personality system. Strong impact. If you can look at it from a different perspective, knowing that you do impact on that collective form, and just do what you can. Don't regret or negate. Do what you can. None of us are perfect. Believe you me, I think that that's really important to know. I don't know whether you're okay with that answer, Sonia, but I wish you well with it, and all others, including myself, who go through things from time to time. And we need all the help we can get. And what I'm implying is that that higher state is there to link with us in ways that are uncomfortable and comfortable. I wish all of us the best in our particular spiritual growth. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to meditate, and at the end, I'll just ask you to do the balancing and grounding. I'll come out and say that. So I wish everybody well.
रत्नैः कल्पितमासनं हिमजलैः स्नानं च दिव्याम्बरम् नानारत्नविभूषितं मृगमदामोदाङ्कितं चन्दनम् जातिचम्पकबिल्वपत्ररचितं पुष्पं च धूपं तथा दीपं देवदयानिधे पशुपते हृत्कल्पितं गृह्यताम् सौवर्णेन नवरत्नखण्डरचिते पात्रे घृतं पायसम् भक्ष्यं पञ्चविधं पयोदधियुतं रम्भाफलं पानकम् शाकानां यतं पूजितं भक्त्या प्रभो स्वीकुरु। छत्रं चामरयोर्युगं व्यजनकं चादर्शकं निर्मलम् वीणाभैरिमृदङ्गकोहलकला गीतं च नृत्यं तथा साष्टाङ्गं प्रणतिः स्तुतिर्बहुविधा एतत्समस्तं मया सङ्कल्पेन समर्पितं तव विभो पूजां ग्रहाण प्रभो। आत्मा त्वं गिरिजामते सहचराः प्राणाः शरीरं ग्रहम् पूजा ते विषयोपभोगरचना निद्रा समाधिस्थितिः सञ्चारः पदयोः प्रदक्षिणविधि स्तोत्राणि सर्वा गिरो यत् कर्म करोमि तत् अखिलम् शम्भो तवाराधनम्। करचरणकृतं वा कायजं कर्मजं वा श्रवणनयनजं वा मानसं वा पराधम् विहितमविहितं वा सर्वमेतच्छमस्व। जय जय करुणाब्धे श्री महादेव शम्भो। न तातो न माता न बन्धुर्न दाता न पुत्रो न पुत्री न भृत्यो न भर्ता न जाया न वेद्या न वृत्तिर्ममैव गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि भवाब्धावपारे महादुःखभीरो प्रपातप्रकामी प्रलोभी प्रमत्ता कुसंसारपाश प्रबद्धः सदाहं गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि न जानामि दानं न च ध्यानयोगम् न जानामि तन्त्रं न च स्तोत्रमन्त्रम् न जानामि पूजां न च न्यासयोगम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि न जानामि पुण्यं न जानामि तीर्थम् न जानामि मुक्तिं लयं वा कदाचित् न जानामि भक्तिं व्रतं वापि माता गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि कुकर्मी कुसङ्गी कुबुद्धि कुदास कुलाचारहीन कदाचारलीन कुदृष्टि कुवाक्य प्रबन्ध सदाहम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि प्रजेशं रमेशं महेशं सुरेशं दिन निशीथेश्वरं वा कदाचित् न जानामि चान्यत् सदाहं शरण्ये गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि विवादे विषादे प्रमादे प्रवासे जले चानले पर्वते शत्रुमध्ये अरण्ये शरण्ये सदा मां प्रपाहि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि अनाथो दरिद्रो जरारोगयुक्तो महाक्षीणदीन सदा जाड्यवक्त्रा विपत्तौ प्रविष्ट प्रणष्ट सदाहम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहम् अद्वैतमानन्द रूपं अरूपम् अद्वैतमानन्द रूपं अरूपम् ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मस्वरूपोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मस्वरूपोऽहं चिदोऽहं चिदोऽहं सच्चिदानन्दोऽहं चिदोऽहं चिदोऽहं सच्चिदानन्दोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कार चित्तानि नाहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायु न वा सप्तधातु न वा पञ्चकोश न वाक्पाणिपादं न चोपस्तपायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे द्वेषरागो न मे लोभमोहो मदोर्नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मृत्युर्न शङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपो विभूत्वाच्च सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न च सङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिर्न मेया चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं 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 शिवोऽहम् ब्रह्ममुरारिसुरार्चितलिङ्गम् निर्मलभासितशोभितलिङ्गम् जन्मजदुःखविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् देवमुनि प्रवरार्चितलिङ्गम् कामदहन करुणाकरलिङ्गम् रावणदर्पविनाशनलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् सर्वसुगन्धिसुलेपितलिङ्गम् बुद्धिविवर्धनकारणलिङ्गम् सिद्धसुरासुरवन्दितलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् कनकमहामणिभूषितलिङ्गम् फणिपतिवेष्टितशोभितलिङ्गम् दक्षसुयज्ञविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् कुङ्कुमचन्दनलेपितलिङ्गम् पङ्कजहार सुशोभितलिङ्गम् सञ्चितपापविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् देवगणार्चितसेवितलिङ्गम् भावैर्भक्तिभिरेव च लिङ्गम् दिनकरकोटिप्रभाकरलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् अष्टदलोपरिवेष्टितलिङ्गम् सर्वसमोद्भवकारणलिङ्गम् अष्टतरेत्रविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् सुरगुरुसुरवरपूजितलिङ्गम् सुरवनपुष्पसदार्चितलिङ्गम् परमपदं परमात्मकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम्
Now we'll just begin to do the bouncing and grounding. And have a good evening, everybody. Take care.